There will be moments in your life when the world gets loud and your soul gets silent. And in those moments, the bravest thing you can do is to stay alone. Stay with me until the end, because the final lessons will truly change how you see yourself, your relationships, and your entire life. Being alone is not weakness. It is one of the purest forms of self-respect you will ever practice. In a world that constantly measures your value by how many people surround you, how many messages you receive, how many approvals you collect, choosing your own company can feel uncomfortable, even frightening. But strength is not in the noise around you. Strength is in the silence where you learn to stand without applause. The truth is, the moment you stop chasing validation and start choosing yourself, something powerful shifts inside you. You begin to realize that your worth was never meant to be negotiated with the world. There comes a time in life when you find yourself saying yes to things that drain you, just to avoid disappointing others. You attend gatherings that exhaust your spirit. You keep conversations alive that feel empty. You stay available for people who are rarely there for you, not because you want to, but because you're afraid of being alone. And slowly, without even realizing it, you start losing pieces of yourself. Your opinions become quieter, your boundaries become weaker, your inner voice becomes distant. That's the cost of seeking acceptance at the expense of your authenticity. But the day you choose solitude over pretending, everything begins to change. When you sit alone without distraction, no phone, no noise, no performance, you start hearing your real thoughts again. You remember what excites you, what hurts you, what you truly want. Solitude reconnects you with your truth. It clears the emotional clutter that comes from trying to fit into spaces that were never meant for you. And in that quiet space, you don't feel empty. You feel honest. You feel grounded. You feel like yourself again. Most people misunderstand solitude because they confuse it with loneliness. Loneliness comes from feeling unseen even in a crowd. But solitude is different. Solitude is a conscious choice. It is choosing your peace over unnecessary drama. It is choosing your growth over constant distraction. It is choosing self-awareness over social approval. When you learn to be comfortable in your own presence, you stop needing others to complete you. You begin to experience a quiet confidence, the kind that doesn't seek attention, but naturally commands respect. Something else happens when you practice being alone. You start setting better boundaries. You no longer feel guilty for protecting your time or your energy. You stop explaining your worth to people who never tried to understand it. You become selective about who you allow into your emotional space. And this is not arrogance. This is maturity. Because self-respect is not about thinking you are better than others. It is about refusing to shrink yourself just to be accepted by them. And over time, this relationship with yourself becomes your greatest strength. When life gets uncertain, you don't panic. When people disappoint you, you don't break. When circumstances change, you don't lose your identity because you have built something powerful, a sense of self that does not depend on external approval. You realize that being alone is not a sign that something is missing from your life. Sometimes it is a sign that you are finally honoring who you truly are. Asterisk self-respect begins the moment you choose your peace over people, your truth over approval, and your own presence over the fear of being alone. Asterisk, your energy is your most valuable currency. Yet most people give it away without even realizing it. Every conversation, every environment, every relationship either nourishes you or quietly drains you. The problem is, we are taught to be available, to be agreeable, to always be there for others, even when it comes at the cost of our own peace. We say yes when we feel exhausted. We listen when our mind is overwhelmed. We stay connected to people who leave us feeling heavy. And over time, this constant leakage of energy begins to affect your mood, your confidence, and even your sense of direction in life. Not everyone who enters your life deserves access to your emotional space. Some people don't come to grow with you. They come to offload their negativity, their insecurity, their chaos. They complain but never change. They criticize but never support. They take your time, your attention, your kindness, but rarely give anything back. And because you are kind, because you are empathetic, because you don't want to seem rude or distant, you keep showing up for them. But kindness without boundaries slowly turns into self-neglect. There's a difference between being a good person and being an available person for everyone. When you give your energy without awareness, you start feeling tired without knowing why. Your motivation drops. Your clarity disappears. Even your dreams begin to feel distant. That's because energy is not just emotional. It is mental and spiritual. When it is constantly pulled in different directions by the wrong people, you lose the focus needed to build your own life. And the truth is, the world will keep taking as long as you keep giving without limits. That revive, the world will keep giving without limits. Protecting your energy is not selfish. It is a form of self-discipline. It means learning to say no without guilt. It means stepping away from conversations that feel toxic. It means choosing environments that uplift you instead of draining you. Sometimes protecting your energy means spending more time alone. Not because you hate people, but because you respect your inner peace. Solitude becomes your recharge space, your emotional reset, your mental clarity zone. As you begin to guard your energy, you will notice something interesting. Your mind becomes calmer, your decisions become clearer, your emotions become more stable. You stop reacting to everything and everyone. You become intentional about where you invest your time and attention. And this intentional living creates a new kind of power, quiet, steady, and unshakable. Because when your energy is no longer scattered, it starts working for your growth instead of being consumed by unnecessary drama. And here is the deeper truth. The right people will never feel offended by your boundaries. They will respect your space. They will value your presence even more because they understand that your energy is not something you give lightly. The people who get upset when you protect your peace are usually the ones who benefited from your lack of boundaries. Let them go, because your life is not meant to be an open door for everyone. Your life is meant to be a sacred space where your energy is honored, protected, and used to build the future you truly deserve. Asterisk, when you start protecting your energy, you don't lose people. You lose what was draining you, and you gain the power to become who you were meant to be. Asterisk, growth does not happen when everyone is watching. It does not happen when you are constantly surrounded by noise, opinions, and expectations. Growth happens in the quiet. It happens in the unseen hours when you are alone with your thoughts, your fears, your doubts, and your dreams. Most people romanticize success, but they underestimate the isolation required to build it. When you choose solitude, you are choosing the workshop where your character is shaped. You are stepping into the space where distractions fade and self-awareness begins. And self-awareness is the foundation of every meaningful transformation. Think about nature for a moment. A seed does not break the soil in front of an audience. It grows underground, in darkness, in silence. For weeks, nothing appears to be happening. But beneath the surface, roots are forming. Strength is developing. Direction is being established. Your life works the same way. When you step away from the crowd and allow yourself to be alone, you are building roots. You are strengthening your mental resilience. You are forming clarity about who you are and where you are going. From the outside, it may look like you are doing nothing, but inside, everything is changing. Solitude forces you to confront yourself, and that can be uncomfortable. When you are constantly around people, it is easy to hide from your insecurities. You can distract yourself with conversations, social media, endless activity. But when you are alone, there is no escape. You face your fears directly. You see your habits clearly. You recognize the patterns that have been holding you back. This confrontation is not punishment. It is growth in its purest form, because the version of you that you aspire to become cannot be built on denial. It must be built on honesty. In those quiet moments, you begin to ask deeper questions. What do I truly want? Why do I react the way I do? What am I afraid of? What am I capable of? These questions don't surface in crowded rooms. They emerge in silence, and once you begin to answer them honestly, your decisions start to change. You become more intentional. You stop chasing things that don't align with your values. You stop saying yes to opportunities that only look good on the outside, but feel wrong on the inside. Growth in solitude sharpens your intuition, and intuition becomes your compass. There is also a discipline that is cultivated when you learn to be alone. When no one is there to motivate you, to clap for you, or to push you, you discover your internal drive. You wake up and work on your goals because you choose to, not because someone is watching. You build habits quietly. You read, you reflect, you practice, you improve without broadcasting every step. This self-driven discipline becomes a silent strength. It creates consistency. And consistency is what separates temporary inspiration from lasting transformation, Solitude also teaches emotional independence. When you are alone, you learn how to regulate your emotions without depending on external comfort. You learn how to calm yourself after disappointment. You learn how to celebrate your small victories without waiting for applause. This emotional maturity is powerful. It makes you stable. It makes you resilient. When life throws challenges at you, you don't collapse because you have already practiced standing alone in difficult moments. You have already built the muscle of inner strength. Another profound gift of solitude is creativity. When your mind is not cluttered by constant input from others, it begins to generate original thoughts. Your imagination expands. Your ideas deepen. You connect dots that you never noticed before. Innovation is often born in silence. Whether it is writing, building a bar, scenes, designing a project, or simply redefining your life path, creativity thrives when you give yourself space. Solitude clears the noise so that your authentic voice can emerge without distortion. It is important to understand that choosing solitude does not mean rejecting the world. It means preparing yourself for it. When you grow alone, you return to the world stronger, clearer, and more grounded. You engage in relationships from a place of wholeness, not neediness. You contribute from a place of confidence, not insecurity. You become someone who adds value because you have invested in your own development. The time you spend alone becomes the invisible training ground for the impact you will eventually make. There will be moments when solitude feels heavy. You might question whether you are missing out. You might feel misunderstood. But remember this: discomfort is often the sign that growth is happening. When you train your body, muscles ache before they strengthen. When you train your mind, doubts surface before clarity arrives. The loneliness you sometimes feel is not a sign that you are failing. It is a sign that you are transitioning. You are shedding old versions of yourself. You are evolving beyond environments that no longer fit As you continue to embrace solitude, you begin to notice a shift in your confidence. It becomes quieter but stronger. You no longer seek constant reassurance. You trust your process. You understand that not every season of life is meant to be shared publicly. Some seasons are sacred. They are meant for preparation, reflection, and refinement. And when the time is right, the growth that happened in silence will become visible in your results, your character, and your presence. Solitude also strengthens your relationship with purpose. When you are alone, you are not influenced by trends, peer pressure, or external expectancy. You are guided by what genuinely resonates with your spirit. You identify passions that feel authentic. You recognize talents that were previously overshadowed by compassion. You align your actions with your values. Purpose becomes clearer when it is not competing with noise. And once you discover that clarity, your path forward feels intentional rather than accidental. Perhaps one of the most powerful realizations that comes from solitude is this: you are enough. Without the crowd, without constant validation, without external approval. You begin to appreciate your own company. You enjoy your own thoughts. You respect your own journey. This self-acceptance becomes the foundation of all future relationships and achievements. Because when you know you are enough on your own, you stop tolerating situations that make you feel less. Growth in solitude is not glamorous. It is not always visible. It requires patience, courage, and honesty. But it is transformational. The strength you build when no one is watching cannot be taken away from you. The clarity you develop in silence cannot be easily shaken by opinions. The discipline you cultivated alone becomes your competitive advantage in a distracted world. And when you finally step back into crowded spaces, you do so differently. You are no longer searching for identity. You have already found it. You are no longer desperate for connection. You are choosing it consciously. You are no longer afraid of being alone. You understand its power. Solitude stops being something you escape from and becomes something you value. So do not fear the quiet seasons of your life. Do not rush to fill every empty space with noise or people. Those empty spaces are where you discover your depth. They are where your resilience is forged. They are where your future self is quietly being constructed, layer by layer, choice by choice. Asterisk B, because the most powerful growth you will ever experience is the one that happens when you stand alone, face yourself honestly, and choose to evolve, even when no one is watching.